Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, today we're talking something a little different, a little fun. Um, some news has kind of come out there. Not really anything official, not really anything set in stone, but getting the people talking about a certain franchise that has yet to resurface. And yeah, Luke had brought this to my attention and wanted to talk about it. So, Luke, tell me what's going on with the world of Nightmare on Elm Street right now.
Nothing. No, I'm kidding. This was a little bit of news that I think escaped us when we had done the Sunday Scaries, it looks like, and then we kind of just stumbled upon it a couple days ago. So we kind of debated whether to wait or kind of do like a little news update deal, and I think this is worthy of doing that. Ever since Wes Craven has passed, those kind of rights have been in limbo, and we don't really have too many details as to what exactly is going on. We had heard they reverted back to the Wes Craven estate, so with no bidders or what exactly is going on in that regard. And a little bit news came out that Mike Flanagan is very intrigued to kind of helm the next night, which is something that's when you hear about current modern horror directors, Mike Flanagan's at the top of the list there. So this isn't something where random director A or B, C, whatever has an interest. I think a lot of horror directors do. But when you talk about a name like Mike Flanagan, has a lot of intrigue in terms of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and even has his own pitch that he had even mentioned that he kind of set up a few years ago. I think that's pretty big news because, I mean, we look at some of the past stuff that he's done, and he could really be a really good fit for this franchise.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, this was exciting when I saw this kind of come across our Twitter feed. And, when you brought it up, it just kind of revitalized it. Because, again, like you, I had kind of saw this, but I think it was just Sunday afternoon or early Monday. And it was one of those things where, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, Mike Flanagan's sensibilities, from his filmography and just what he's tackled before, I think that he'd be a really good fit for the Nightmare franchise. I like his style. It's no secret. I'm a huge Midnight Mass fan. And I really enjoyed Doctor Sleep quite a bit. So it's one of those things where it's like, I think that as far as horror directors go, or just big name directors in general, like Luke said, this is definitely encouraging because if there's anybody that's going to get a studio interested or somebody to go to the Craven estate and pitch this idea, I think he's one of the bigger names in Hollywood that if he threw it out there, somebody's going to circle that and be like, hey, I would love to put the money up for this. And it would really, I guess, just come down to his pitch and what he has going on. One of the things that piqued my interest here was so he has a pitch, but did it specify whether this was a movie or a television show? Because knowing Mike Flanagan, he can go either way. He loves doing both. So, and he just did that deal with Amazon. I believe it was Amazon and everything. So he's got a lot of outlets right now where this could potentially pan out for him.
Yeah, he didn't specify what the pitch entailed. It said he had kind of worked it a couple years ago, so it sounds like it hasn't been necessarily a recent thing for him. If I had to guess, I would assume that it would be an actual film instead of a TV show. But I guess you really never know with Mike Flanagan because he excels at but this could be really interesting, I think, because you look at both his film and TV shows, and they all have those elements, I think, of what makes A Nightmare on Elm Street great. So I think he is someone that can really bring that terror into A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I know uh, you're a big fan of Doctor Sleep. For me, I'm a little less of a big fan of Doctor Sleep. I think there are some good elements in there, but I think more so he was bogged down by the source material there, just because they had to fit so much into that film. But
And
like
to be fair, your expectations for that movie were pretty sky high, considering The Shining, I want to say, is your favorite horror film.
yes,
So yeah, it's one of those ones where he had a big hill to climb on that one.
sure, whatever you want to say, Dylan. No, and I don't think it's a bad film. I think looking at it, and again, it's one of those things where I can't help but my mind creep into what the potential could have been or to do his own thing. But I think even if you look at Doctor Sleep and the elements that he uses in there are, I mean, they a perfect example of how he could excel at A Nightmare on Elm Street. You look at like A Haunting on Hill House, and I think that's again something that where he's laying out all these elements where you could say, well, this would be an intriguing scene if you just replace, this character with Freddy Krueger. And as we're seeing with, Halloween already out there, the trilogy, I'm sure we'll see Michael again. Everything about Jason Voorhees coming back with the Friday 13th series. And, those two are pretty similar, whereas Freddy is probably the most unique out of those three, where, he has his own kind of aura about him, and they can have that really different atmosphere. And again, Mike Flanagan playing in that playground, it can really create some very interesting scenes and scenarios.
Absolutely. And, with this, it also got my mind kind of racing. It's like I confided in you shortly after we talked about this that I also had like kind of my own pitch, like mostly written out of what I would do for a Nightmare on Elm Street, but it's just kind of like for fun, just more like a free write session kind of thing. But it does make me wonder, if we were to go in this direction with Mike Flanagan doing this, what kind of a Freddy would you expect us to get from him? I would expect a more grounded take to it. Not necessarily in the sense of like him not being in your dreams or anything like that, but I would think, we would kind of get away from the jokey Freddy. We'd probably go a little closer to the first and possibly the second film with that. And I know a lot of people took issue with that with the remake, but I think that was the furthest issue from what makes that movie pretty poor, in my opinion. But I think bringing Freddy back to his roots and making him really authentic and scary again is probably got to be number one on his list. But what kind of take do you think Mike would give to this?
I think we would probably see a darker Freddy than we're used to seeing, especially, as we moved into a lot of those sequels. I think maybe an occasional one-liner here and there, just to kind of please that audience. But I do think we would go probably a very dark kind of Freddy, more serious tone than what we're used to with those sequels, where they were like a bit more outlandish, especially when you go to like Freddy's Dead and things like that. I don't think we're looking at that kind of tone. I think this will be a more serious, grounded take. I think what really intrigues me more so is the character work that we can see from, the cast of characters that are dealing with Freddy, just because of, I mean, we speak so highly of Midnight Mass and the character development throughout there. And then, I mean, there's even great character development and everything else that he's done. I mean, you look at Hush and stuff like that. What a unique concept. So it's like, I'd be so excited to see what he's going to do there. I would think that even this take for him, as we're used to seeing, it's pretty academic in terms of slashers, where it's like we're dealing with more of the teenage kind of group. I could really see this a vast range of age groups rather than just the teenagers. So, I could see kids involved, older people, and I think that's really where the intrigue here lies, where it's like, um, it, Robert England, I don't know if he'd be back. I think if he isn't, we'd all love to see him back. But if he isn't, I think if Mike Flanagan's in charge of this, I have confidence that Freddy will be done well. And then I also have confidence that the actual cast of characters will be done well. So it's like throwing Mike Flanagan into this element here, I think catapults this A Nightmare on Elm Street into an A+ franchise out of the gate.
I believe you're correct there. And, that was going to lead into my next little segment here of just saying, um, if, we went into this, where would you like to see, Freddy's victims kind of fall into it? Because I think that, although it's pretty standard to do the teens, slasher thing, and it was pretty standard at that time, Freddy Krueger is known as a child murderer. And knowing his Mike Flanagan's work with Dr. Sleep and the kind of stuff that children went through in that storyline, I was saying, like, I think that it would be a prime example of, or like prime time, I should say, for us to really lean into the aspect of Freddy haunting kids. Like, he doesn't have to be slashing up and murdering children like left, right, and center, maybe one or two. But like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think you're right. The wide age group here, like, let's open it up. Maybe he gets some of the adults that, put him in the situation that he's in. If they follow that origin for Freddy, maybe he haunts some teens and haunts some children. Like, Freddy should be a universal threat. You know what I mean? Like, I think that would be best, because I think that if there's any horror slasher icon that has the potential to really fuck with humanity and bring people to their knees, he's got the best advantage kind of playing in that dream realm, because, everybody's got to sleep, and that's the thing. Like, no matter what your age is, no matter how hard you push yourself, you are going to pass out. And one of the only elements from the remake that I think was pretty cool, that I think that they could play with that too, is the whole micro naps thing. When you've pushed yourself so far to the point where your body is going to shut down and you are going to just fall asleep because it just can't go any further. It's like, I'd love to see them mess with that element and really play with that psychology of things. And the philosophy of Freddy Krueger, and just like, what it means, like, if this man actually did do the things he was accused of, or, that I think that Mike Flanagan could really play with all those elements and really give us a nice, fresh look at Freddy. And, you do say whether we get Robert Englund back or not. I think that, yeah, he has even said that he's a little too old for the role. I know we spoke about Nightmare on Elm Street not too long ago, I think on the Sunday Scaries, and I said I think he can do it. But after kind of looking into things and hearing his thoughts in a few interviews, I gotta say he picked the right person to replace him, because we're obviously big fans. But he did say that he would love to see somebody like Kevin Bacon step into the role, and just the look alone, I think, would be really, really striking. And he's already got his feet so deep into the horror universe right now. Like, granted, hasn't been in the best movies recently, but I cannot doubt that he would come in and kick some major ass if he took on this role. He would take it very seriously.
Yeah, and I know I've seen Kevin Bacon's name thrown around a lot when we talk about Freddy Krueger, and I do think that's a great choice. We've seen his range of acting, and then I'm a huge fan of Stir of Echoes, and yeah, you're right. 'Cause some of the horror choices he's had over the past little bit have not been the greatest, but I mean, he's always a shining moment in any of those films.
Oh,
So it's like
absolutely.
his performance. I would love to see the bring to a Freddy Krueger, especially with the direction like Mike Flanagan. I think could be a really knock out of the park. And then you mentioned the remake that we had, and it had some decent elements in there, but it wasn't. I don't think, like, looking back on it now, it wasn't really treated as a high priority of something like we really got to get this out to a general audience to kind of reboot this franchise. I mean, I can't even remember who initially directed it. I don't think it was anyone of prominence as far as I recall, but it's like as soon as, and I know this is just kind of a little tidbit of a news and nothing's been confirmed, but I know Mike Flanagan's been, telling his agents and things, as he mentioned, that, put me in the game, and I really want to do something with Nightmare on Elm Street, and they just don't know how to go about it or where the rights are. But, as soon as this kind of picks up some steam, and if, there's intrigue enough, and we say, hey, Mike Flanagan is directing a Nightmare on Elm Street, boy, I mean, I think that's already sell out as soon as those tickets go on sale. I think everyone's going to be so intrigued to see what he's going to bring to the table.
Again, I think that we're in such a prime time for horror. We say it basically every time we get on camera. But like, yeah, we said it with Friday the 13th when they started talking about the TV show, and then they started releasing stories saying they'd like to do movies alongside of it. You get any of these guys on the big screen, any of the big three at least, and I'm telling you, it's going to wreck the box office. Like, it's going to be
Yep.
massive. Like, we're recording this, we're a day out from the early release of Scream 6, and the projections are massive for that franchise, the biggest it's ever been. So, whether it's going to hit that or not, we'll see. I think it will. But it just goes to show that, like, these slashers are in their prime for making a big return. And say what you will, and our feelings about the David Gordon Green stuff, it didn't work out for us, but it is pretty much all responsible for getting us back in the swing of things here. And I know we're not the only ones. There's a ton of people, anytime you bring up Nightmare on Elm Street on social media, that are just like, where's Freddy? Why aren't we talking about Freddy? We got Jason, of all people, which that was just a rights nightmare. And the fact that that's happening now, um, you know, Freddy's got to be coming up soon. And
Yeah.
again, Mike Flanagan, this is a good pick. I really hope we go this way. honestly, like you said, it's just a tidbit of news, but it's like if they do reboot it and Mike Flanagan's not attached, I'm gonna be really curious to see who they attach to this,
Yeah.
because it's like when you have somebody at this caliber who's as loved by as many people as he is, like, the general populace, most people know Haunting of Hill House or Midnight Mass or all these other things, at least Doctor Sleep. So the dude has appeal across many audiences. And it's like, you should definitely, take strike while the iron is hot, I should say, on this, and take the guy up on his pitch at least.
Absolutely, and, just kinda pivoting again back to that remake where, at that point in time, we were really heavy into the CGI, and that's where we're going with. Now we're kind of circling back a little bit where we're seeing this kind of, happier marriage between CGI as well as
Good
practical
balance.
effects. I think even lends to more intrigue in terms of A Nightmare on Elm Street to see what we could get, as a lot of people are like, well, let's not necessarily go all CGI. Let's do some practical effects in here. And Nightmare on Elm Street's always been prevalent in the special effects department. So I'm really intrigued to see what that's going to do. And I know you mentioned Scream, and Nightmare on Elm Street's been ingrained in the horror space 10 years prior at least. So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
I could even see this doing absolutely huge numbers if it gets announced and we see this back in the theater.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody would be there because of just the pure curiosity alone of, uh even like our parents, like grandparents would be like, yeah, I want to go see Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember when these were coming out. Like, it's going to be a big thing.
Yep.
And I feel the same way about Jason. It's one of those things where it's like the big three there, they have the opportunity. It's just about these studios having to, like I said, strike when the iron is hot, and that time is now. So, but alrighty, guys, I think that's going to wrap us up here for our talk on Nightmare on Elm Street. Definitely lots of fun stuff, lots of fun speculation. Let us know what you guys think down below. Is Mike Flanagan a good fit for you? Do you guys have a better idea in mind? Where would you like to see the series go? Maybe go with the requel approach, or would you like them to just reboot entirely? Make a sequel to the entire franchise? Like, man, they could go a lot of places. I'm just really curious. Even if this doesn't get made, I want to find out what Mike Flanagan's pitch is at some point. So I just want to read it. I want to know what his thoughts were and where he was going to go. But yeah, just let us know down below. And of course, you guys can hit subscribe if you're new here. We are always posting great content. Got a lot of fun stuff coming up this weekend. 2 big reviews and a lot of great collaborations. So definitely, hit subscribe. But alrighty, I guess until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.